Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Dream podcast. My name's Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing great, Josh. Again, we are live from the Blue Wire studios at the Wynn Las Vegas. Thanks, of course, to the Blue Wire team for hosting us. They are amazing. The studio is amazing. We've got a great look of the Wynn gallery out the window here.
Uh-huh.
We're going to try and shout at some people as they walk by.
For sure.
If you see an Arsenal kit, I wouldn't be surprised.
You don't see, I feel like in the wild, it's Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah,
Like those are
right.
the two you always see. And
Yeah.
then the Premier League stuff, it's like you may see a hat.
Uh-huh.
You might, at least in the United States, this is the case.
Oh, yeah, and I think in the U.S., the Premier League started taking off around the legendary Leicester season. You'll see a few Jamie Vardy jerseys out there in the wild.
Yeah.
But let's focus in here, Josh, because we are days away from the Gameweek 1 deadline.
Yep.
We woke up early here in Vegas. The Community Shield kicked off at 9 a.m.
Yep.
We meandered down to the sports book to take it in with some horse racing enthusiasts, which was a joy. And so we're going to delve into our thoughts about that match and how it may or may not have influenced our Game Week 1 drafts. But first, Josh, we wanted to just, for anybody who needs to hear this, general pieces of wisdom
Right.
that we've been talking about during this
Yeah.
Vegas trip about how to start the season off on the right foot.
Yeah, we didn't do like the 10 tips this year. I feel like that has become it's very popular now. We have given that to the community, and now we can we've done it like 7 years in a row.
There
Like,
are upwards of 18,000 tips out there now. You can go find them all over the internet.
Exactly. So, two final tips though.
Yeah.
Okay. One, this is a very big problem that you start to see, especially this week, which is that people start to put together their team, they're finally ready to go, and then they realize, oh my God, I got the same team as everybody else, or very close, and they start to panic a little bit, and that's when the crazy moves start happening. That's when you're like, you know what? I think that whatever, Luis Diaz is going to be great this weekend.
Like you go full big brain on this when
Yeah.
maybe you shouldn't be.
Exactly. And I think setting everything up ahead of the start of the Premier League season, that's almost not even the game. Like, to me, the game really begins in game week 2, right? That's when you're starting to change things around. That's when like the real strategy, I think, comes in. And the pre-planning stuff, you're just trying to get, you just want to, I don't know. I feel like you just want to set the best foot forward. I don't
Yeah.
really think that you can. I don't know. It's like that. Like, can you lose? Is the season won or lost in game week 1? I don't think that's true.
Well, you said something interesting yesterday, Josh, about playing NFL fantasy for the first time last season in a long time, and you didn't really have a foothold in the NFL world like you had in decades past.
Right.
So what you did to prepare for that season was you just went to the various big blogs and podcasts and kind of set up the team the way they told you to.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I finished second in this league. I should have won it. I could talk more about that.
Yeah.
Different podcasts.
So there's something to that where going into Game Week 1, you have to accept that there are so many unknowns that it's not actually against the code of being a good FPL fantasy manager by just kind of being a little normal.
Yeah.
Because as you're saying, the game really begins in Game Week 2.
Yeah.
That's when you can start playing your
That's when
own
it's-
game.
Yeah, that's when it's a game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think and so I mean, the fantasy experience last year was really useful for me because I'm doing this NFL version of it because I had no opinions, right? Like, none. I mean, I just don't follow the league closely enough. I didn't really know, and so I found these lists that basically. It's even more common in NFL because they have draft style. So there's they have like these rankings like 1 to 100. They should actually do this for fantasy more often. It's like for Premier League.
Like the
fantasy.
ICT index?
Oh yeah, like that. Incredible index. Hugely
Right,
useful.
Right.
Um,
So you were like
yeah.
full tabula rasa with the NFL, and that's something we talked about a lot last FPL season, where
Yeah.
we're coming in with so many biases about various players, and that's influencing us often
you have to unlearn a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right, exactly. Okay, so there it is. Game Week 1, it's not a bad idea to just kind of play it safe because the game really begins in Game
Yeah.
Week 2.
And I'm not even saying play it safe. It's
Yeah.
just don't worry if
Yeah,
it looks
right.
similar. Like, put together whatever you think is the best version. But if it happens to look like other people's, like
Yeah.
I am finding that I'm getting very close to everybody else's squad right now,
Yeah.
and there's just kind of no way around it because I just keep looking. And I'm like, well, this is the player that I want, and it does just I don't. And that's why I think it feeds right into tip number 2. So again, this is 2 tips, not 10, just 2 this time around, Brandon. 2. Just so you remember.
I love keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. is to watch as many games as possible in match week 1.
Yeah.
Right. So kicks off this Friday. Games on Saturday. Games on Sunday. I know this is tougher in the UK. They have these, whatever the rules are called. Like the
Sure, there are blackouts for the 3 p.m.
Exactly.
matches, of course.
Yeah.
So, and for those people who can't watch all the games, there are extended highlights that get dropped on YouTube, of course. But the idea there is, of course, if the game really begins in game week 2, that's when everyone really is able to start making the decisions. You're doing that because watching these matches in game week 1, you're getting all that feedback, all the information that you can then leverage for making a smart play, getting on a player early that you're like, wow, they look really good, unexpectedly, possibly in game week 1.
Yeah, and and certainly you can blend it. I mean, I don't think that you should, use all of these kind of data sources, whatever you might use. I really like, Mikkel Takvim's stuff, but there are a lot of people. There's a lot of different, sources out there that you can use.
Right.
And I'm not saying you should abandon that going into game week 2, but to me, it's just part of the fun of it. Like, I mean, to me, it's like I just don't quite get the point of just plugging my team into like a piece of software. And again, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. I think it's very useful and interesting to do it. Like I said, like FPL Review is fantastic for this, right? It's just very cool to go in there and take a look. But to me, I don't necessarily want that to be the only thing I'm using, And otherwise, it's like, why don't I just like put my money into the stock market and track? It's like, like there's other ways to be this data driven where you can actually like generate, money for yourself.
Right.
And so, to me, the fun of it is to actually watch the matches and then use that to. And I have one example that I think of, and it's like 4 or 5 years ago now, but the first year that Pookie was in the league when he joined from Norwich, and Liverpool hosted. Somehow Liverpool always play a promoted team in game week 1. I don't know, they like have some deal with the Premier League, that
some dark arts are happening there.
Exactly. So and it happening again this season, right? They play Fulham on Saturday. So anyway, the Liverpool did play Fulham or played Norwich in the week 1. This is like 4 years ago now. And they crushed them unexpectedly, or expectedly.
Yes.
Not unexpectedly.
However,
at the end of the game, Pookie scores this kind of lone goal, and it was just it was a confident, well taken strike. And they're about to play a terrible Newcastle team in game week 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I had just seen like the scroll, if I just gone to ESPN or whatever, and just like looked at like who did what in the match, then I would have said Pookie goal, and I would have just like kind of dismissed it. Right. Like who knows why it happened? Header and a corner kick or something like that.
So watch as many games in game week 1. This morning with the Community Shield morning here in Las Vegas, we watched what was effectively, I guess, game week 0.5.
Yeah.
It felt like the season always kind of kicks off with the Community Shield. You feel like maybe it's a solidified starting lineup for whichever teams are playing.
By the way, just to finish that Pookie story.
Oh God, there's more.
Well, I didn't even. All I said was I brought him in. There was
right, and I'm sure he did well. Or he scored a hat trick against Newcastle.
Scored a hat trick against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that ended up being my best ever season. Was that season? I sort of kicked on right from that one moment, and it's just a moment that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me watching the match. And so
the story perfectly illustrates this, right?
Exactly.
You go in knowing what you know about Liverpool, not trying to be too clever in game week 1. You watch the match in game week 1, which allows you to make a clever decision going into game week 2. Suddenly, you've got a leg up.
Right. Exactly. So, Charity Shield. I always want to call it that. I'm not sure why. Eventually,
You're stuck in the past, my friend.
Yeah, well, I don't know when they stopped calling it that, like 1983 or something like that.
Let's not get into it.
I kind of want to, but I guess we should keep going. All right, so we had the Community Shield today. Liverpool, Man City. Ultimately, like a pretty commanding Liverpool win. I thought. They were, I guess it was 1-0 at halftime.
I thought the
Man City
first half
equalized
was
the second half.
incredibly sloppy play, and during the first half, it was a lot of slop, and you felt like these teams are still kicking off a lot of rust. I think it was maybe Man City's 3rd match of the preseason.
Right.
So they're clearly still trying to bet in Haaland. I
caught a frustrated figure.
Right. But then as the second half started to take shape, I feel like we were starting to see more of the real versions of these teams. And still, yet, as you say, I agree. I thought Liverpool never felt like they were going to lose, even when Man City did equalize early in that second half.
So you had 4 goals in the match. You had Trent. Oh, it's solid to Trent early on. A nice strike. Was it deflected a little bit? I think it
Ake
was.
got his head to it, I think, and
Yeah,
it's that.
might have
That's
gone
what
in anyway.
this
Hard to
goes
say.
back to the short center back discussion we were having with Manchester United. Like if Ake is a foot taller, and you just get these big center
I
backs to
know.
help prevent these
I'm
weird
a short guy, but I'm
goals. Yeah.
kind of with you. I don't know.
Well taken, nonetheless. You can't take anything away from Trent on that, and of
Yeah,
course, that just reaffirms that Trent has got to be a player where the Community Shield today
yeah.
just is a reaffirming.
But cut to 40 minutes later when Trent is basically at fault for the goal.
Well,
He
we know
turns
this.
away from the play.
We know this about Trent already. Like that was a theme that we'll talk about a few more players, obviously, but I feel like another theme broadly from the Community Shield was I felt pretty confident that I knew most of these players. Like
Yeah.
Trent didn't show me anything
You know,
new.
But I just liked it because he like shushed everybody when he scored the goal.
Yeah.
And it was like, everyone knows that you can score, dude.
Yeah.
It's like the problem is people don't know if you can
Nah,
defend.
he's saying shush because he's like, please don't say anything when I ultimately have a breakdown in the back, 20 minutes from
Right.
now.
That's what he was actually
A
asking
preemptive.
he was asking
silence.
for kindness. Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
So he played well, and then we had in the second half, the new signing, Alvarez.
Yeah.
Looks terrific. Kind of like, I mean, obviously in limited minutes, but I think he's going to be a starter fairly soon. I mean, Mahrez did a Mahrez. I mean, there's a bunch of questions for this week's pod about Mahrez. Is Mahrez viable? He is, but they've got 5 subs now. I think Pep is a little more experienced with 5 subs. I think he's going to use them a lot more. He's got more depth up front for sure, right? So I feel like he's going to just rotate both the left wing and the right wing are just going to get rotated all season long. It's just even today it was actually very good to see this, right? Because Grealish and Foden, which one do you want? Maybe nobody, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mahrez
Mahrez and Alvarez. It's like I don't know if I want any of those 4 players.
That was my huge disappointment. We're about to drop our team previews that include Manchester City, and this was pre-Community Shield. I was bullish on Grealish. I'm thinking like, okay, he's had the one season to be reprogrammed by Pep. It's all going to happen. You watch his performance in the first going into the second half of today's match against Liverpool, and you're like, this is the same thing we saw all last season with Grealish.
Yeah.
He, tried to break a few tackles. He really didn't create much at all. I mean, granted, it was, I think, tough throughout the first half for any City player to create much. But
I feel like I saved 7 million watching him play today.
Well, it's sort of like you didn't save anything because Grealish doesn't work at 7 million, you're probably gonna have to spend more money on another player.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Or go down even further.
Or you're just like, I'm not having any Manchester City attack, which
Neto, he's emerging, Brandon. All right, so the big question that was Erling Haaland, right? So Haaland, it's kind of his first match under the spotlight. Clearly was feeling it. Grabbed somebody by the neck.
Van Dijk, not just anybody. The biggest man, the only man close in size.
That's like going to prison and picking on the biggest guy,
Exactly.
the first day.
Yep.
So Haaland goes in there and so he's grabbing necks and missing sitters and just and obviously like it's kind of funny the way it works because the instant that happened, everybody was like, oh yeah, like maybe I don't want Haaland. And then you have the response to the response, which is everyone like leaping, myself included. I posted something about it on Twitter, but everyone leaping to be like, listen, this is actually a good sign. Like he's so active, so engaged that to me, like I just can't imagine him not scoring the next couple of weekends. And so I am still really on the fence about the Kane versus Haaland thing. The only problem I have with that, we're going to talk about this later in the pod, is if I go with Haaland over Kane, and I really am a believer in Spurs this season, despite losing 1-0 in their Roma friendly. Yeah. Big believer in. I mean, that's like Jose Mourinho, though. It's like it's a mess.
Go on. Yeah.
Did you see that person who did a fan meet and greet with Jose Mourinho, and then as he was meeting Jose Mourinho, he proposed to his wife, and Jose Mourinho just had to stand there while the proposal happened.
Why would you do that?
It was very weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to kill your like sexual relationship with your partner for a long time. Just the thought of Jose Mourinho just like looming over your relationship. That's no good.
It's like your engagement is now like he's there. It's weird. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, what was my point? Oh, my point was that if I go with Haaland over Kane, I have no Spurs, and I don't believe in coverage. This coverage idea, but I do think they're going to be good this year. And having nobody, it just feels like the entire season. Of course, okay. You know what? That's the trap I just fell into, which is saying if I don't have him for 1 week,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have him for the entire season. But of course, we're just looking at game week 1, right?
This is the
Yeah,
beauty of Kane versus Haaland is they are the same price on the FPL site. So
right.
if you feel like whoops, after game week 1, I got the wrong guy,
Yeah.
easy switch. Now we're gonna, it would, one would assume that if Kane or Haaland goes off in game week 1, their price is immediately going to skyrocket. So you're gonna have to move quickly on a decision
Yeah.
going into game week 2 with either of these guys.
Well, and so the first 2 matches of the season, Spurs play Southampton at home,
Yeah.
and then they play away to Chelsea. So a pretty tricky game week 2. Man City play away to West Ham, and then they host Bournemouth. So one move would be to have Kane for game week 1 and then move him to Haaland at game week 2. But that kind of like almost feels like a wasted transfer, because if you think that Haaland away to West Ham, who are not the strongest team defensively, right? Like,
No.
I think Masuaku is going to be lining up, and it's just like they're it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
And so, if you think that he can do something in that match, and then they have this incredible game at home the next week,
Bournemouth, right?
yeah. Then if you're not even captaining Kane, which I won't be because I'll have Mo Salah.
Sure.
Then why am I not just going for Haaland from the get go?
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I might be talking myself into Haaland now.
So you mentioned the S word there, Mo Salah.
Yeah.
What did we think of Salah's performance in the Community Shield? It was, again, sort of similar to what I was saying with Trent.
Right.
It was a continuation of what we knew from him last season. It was sort of like he had one opportunity that he squandered early in the match where he cut in on his favored left foot, bended it to the near post, and missed the target. And then he was relatively quiet apart from the assist to Trent. And then the concern that fantasy managers will continue to have is, but I don't ever know when Salah's just going to pop up with that penalty, because he's not going to probably be subbed off ever or infrequently by Klopp. So he's going to be ever present. He gets a cheeky little assist to Trent. The points are going to accrue for Salah. There's no way around
13 points right there,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Goal assist, probably 3 bonus.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, I mean, and that's against probably the toughest defense they're going to face, all season.
Yeah,
I mean,
the-
obviously it's not an informed
Yeah.
version of that defense.
This is what we were saying about Manchester City, too. Like, we felt like they came up against Liverpool on the wrong day, but there was nothing necessarily about that performance that made me think, oh, Man City aren't just going to completely demolish every lower tier opposition that they come up against this season.
Of course, and upper tier for that matter.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
only like 4 teams can even keep it close with that.
Yeah, by tier I mean table. Okay, so then I guess let's touch upon some of the lower price midfielders quickly. Like Luis Diaz started, and I thought he was really active. He had good chemistry with
So fast.
incredibly fast. There was a breakaway, a counterattack in the second half where it was Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez running together, and it was just like horses breaking free. It was incredible. It reminded me of like the early days of Salah and Mane when they were just counterattacking again and again relentlessly and crushing oppositions.
Yeah. Ultimately no attacking returns for Diaz in the match, and of course it's just one game. But Robbo gets the assist. Robbo was very involved. Robbo took a shot inside the pie. Wasn't close. In fact, it ballooned so much that I assumed it had to be Jordan Henderson that took that shot at first. You were just going in on Henderson in this match.
I know. Yeah. If you've got the captain, leader, legend moniker, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on you. And I love punching up. I don't know, because Jordan Henderson's better than me.
Makes more money.
He's better looking than me. I mean,
that one's closer.
Yeah.
But you're right. He
has more Twitter followers, I would assume. Is Jordan Henderson on Twitter? That's a
Does
good
he have
question.
more? You got about 2,100. Yeah, so he might have you by a couple.
All right, so 3-1. The last guy maybe we should talk about here is Darwin Nunez, because he criticized for being a skinny Andy Carroll. Nobody had any real confidence that he's going to take off. He's already had a 4-goal appearance preseason, comes in, and I thought it looked a natural fit for the number 9 in that setup under Klopp.
Awesome. Yeah.
And Firmino looked pretty ragged, and he was a role player in the first half, but I don't see any reason why Nunez doesn't claim that starting role like immediately.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's actually really hard. I was tinkering with my team a little bit before we started this podcast today, and it's really hard to have 3 forwards and still have kind of the team that you want, because it's just so hard to avoid. Again, you look at the number of points
Yeah.
that these defenders scored who led the league last season in points, and
Right.
they're all like 6 and 7 million. They're like literally 3 or 4 million cheaper
Yeah.
than the other players. They were sort of up there in that top 10, and you're not going to catch anyone but Mo Salah anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the point of
Right.
like having all the like? Are they really that much more consistent? I mean, I guess the argument would be that there's maybe like well, I'm not even sure that's true. I was going to say there's an argument that like maybe you get like the high end of like the ceiling is higher, right? That like maybe you get a hat trick from a Mahrez or Diaz or whatever. But I'm not even like sure that's like, I mean, because Cancelo is certainly capable of having like a 2 goal assist.
Yeah, right. The trick with players like Mahrez is you have to have them on the right week.
Yeah,
because they will perform in bursts in fantasy.
So
whereas
frustrating.
a player like Cancelo is going to perform consistently.
Yeah.
Lower ceiling, more consistency.
We were talking before if we thought, I think he looks like he's got kind of a skeletal thing. Again, I don't mean this in like, it's kind of like
Okay, all right. Walk it back.
he has like 0% body fat. It's
Yeah.
like there's nothing. He's not skinny exactly, but it's just weird to see a guy who's like kind of muscular but has 0 body fat.
I think you were saying this as I was dipping a tater tot in ketchup, and it caused me to think.
It like dropped. It jiggled like in Jurassic Park.
It was
as
it was a jiggly dollop of ketchup. It's true. All right, so I guess do we need to say anything more about the defense,
Well, okay.
like City's defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one last thing I would say, which is, Cancelo didn't do anything, but he's great. Diaz is great. Like, I actually think, again, I don't keep doing this. We'll talk about it later, but I do want to talk more about Diaz in a minute.
Okay.
But we'll save that for the main feed, because the theme of this week's pod is just answering last minute questions, dilemma, things that are sort of weighing on.
This is an emergency ward situation happening in the Blue Wire studios right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're trying to get everything solved before next Friday.
Yep.
And these are hard questions to solve because this is a game and there are no clear answers, right? Like it's sort of up to us to make a best guess. And like it's a very low stakes kind of gambling, and that's why there are people who feel like you can crack it.
Yeah.
And you kind of can, in the sense that you can make like a technically correct decision, but ultimately it's just low stakes gambling. There's outcomes 30, 40, 50% likely, and just that's how it works.
I think Kyle Walker is the pick if you're not going Cancelo, just for value, $5 million. Because the issue with the central defense right now is, so Laporte is out until probably September. He had knee surgery during the summer. So that's why Ake pairs with Diaz today.
Yeah.
Are you going to want to start with
He's so
Ake?
frustrating. Like he's just like,
And I think Diaz is probably next in line behind Walker, but you're paying $1 million more. And we were talking about the options that Pep has. If it's not Kyle Walker, who's he starting in that place? So long as Walker stays fit, I think he's got that spot, and that's ideal. He's cheaper than Ederson. I'm actually looking right now at a double up with Ederson and Walker. And is that going to be enough to counteract everything that Cancelo's going to be doing?
It's like a good team name, doesn't it? Cheaper than Ederson. Kind of sounds like better than Ezra.
Yeah, right. Cheaper by the Ederson.
There's something there.
I'm writing
Let's
it down.
workshop
I'm writing it down.
Exactly. Let's keep working on it.
All right, that's your Community Shield sort of box there. It was just an interesting watch as we thought about our Game Week 1 drafts. And speaking of, we're going to reveal our Game Week 1 squads to our Patreon supporters on our Thursday night pod, which is our ad-free exclusive we do for our supporters each week. If you want to get involved with our Patreon, visit patreon.com/alwayscheating, which is a great way to say thanks to the cheaters for what we do and get more FPL content in return. What you also get is a 10% discount to our first ever event, ticketed event, which is happening live September 10th in Brooklyn, New York, where we're going to be hanging out, watching Game Week 7 matches live, not just you and me, Josh, but with Mark Southerns, Gianni Battici, and Ed Gray, all flying in from the UK. Of course, Mark Southerns, legendary creator of Fantasy Football Scout. You'd know Gianni from being a Premier League pundit, and
Yeah.
Ed is the founder of.
He's the middle. He's the middle square on the Hollywood Squares.
He really is.
The TV show.
Yeah, so we're excited to partner with them and Fest to bring that to the States for the very first time. You can get tickets at fest-nyc.com. Again, meet the cheaters. We're going to be recording a live episode of Always Cheating at the event, doing a Q&A with Mark. Gianni's going to do a live quiz. People love bar quizzes. That's known throughout the land. And the venue actually has indoor soccer pitches, so we're going to have some balls and do a little bit of a kick around there.
Which is all. I'm really looking forward to it. And if you can't make it to New York, it's December 10th. It's possible. Some people listening can't do it. Who knows?
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Then patreon.com/alwayscheating is where you can go to chat with us. And just the Slack has never been better. I have to say, if you're a Patreon supporter and you haven't joined the Slack yet, send us an email or pop onto the Patreon, send us a note, because we need to get you in there, because it really is fantastic. And if you join before game week 1, then you get into the last cheater standing league, Brandon, which is, I think, sort of like, I don't know what I was going to say, like the cherry on top or whatever.
It really is.
It's
It's been a special exclusive league that was developed by our supporters, not by us. So that's just a testament to the vibrant community. Something we're doing for all of you guys is a monthly T-shirt giveaway to the highest point scoring manager of the month. So there's tons more information on what that's all about at patreon.com/alwayscheating. Josh, I think it's time to cover some listener questions and really dig into game week 1.
Yeah. I called them last minute FPL dilemmas. There's a lot of minutes left until next Friday, so let's call it last week FPL dilemmas.
Okay.
And I think, one thing to keep in mind here too is make sure you watch those press. Well, don't watch them. That seems very boring, but make sure you read about the
I'm
press
a big
conferences.
body language guy, Josh. I feel like watching them, maybe
Is
you're.
it useful to see what Pep looks like? He just looks bedraggled in every one of those press conferences.
No, you watch Graham Potter, when he's lying. You just look at his eyes, okay?
We should have a ranking for trustworthiness. Because Bielsa was the best at this. He would just basically tell you the team that was going to start.
I'll put you on the spot. There's a Twitter feed that is a pretty good digest of manager press conferences. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
FPL News?
I think that might be the one. And there are a few other resources out there. But
Colm runs that.
Yeah, and of course, PremierInjuries.com, run by Ben Dinnery. He is the best one-stop shop for any injury news. So if you're like, hey, what did they say about Emerick Laporte being out for knee surgery? Pop by PremierInjuries.com.
It always sounds weird to me. It sounds like it's like an injury.
These are the best injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
They're wonderful. So anyway, that's where you might go to get information. What's our first dilemma here, Josh?
All right. My first dilemma was something I talked about a little bit at the start of the podcast, which is how many Spurs players are we actually going to try to fit in? So this, I've talked before. When I say before, I mean 8 minutes ago, about how I'm probably.
We all remember, yeah.
I may not do it, and it's funny because I have Kane on my squad right now, but I think I talked myself into Haaland as we talked. I sort of made my argument for it. So where are you at? Because you're kind of in the opposite. You're looking like 9-10 Spurs. Right?
Well, my current draft actually has Son and Kane. So we talked about this in our Spurs team preview, where it's just
and Salah.
And I'm set up as a 4-4-2. What I've ended up sacrificing is Cancelo, namely, and I'm pretty budget in the rest of my midfield: Martinelli, Bailey, and Andreas Pereira at Fulham. But what we have seen from the preseason, apart from this Roma fixture that happened today, is that Kane and Son are just back at it again. They're trading goals and assists.
Right.
And if we believe their fixture run is really great to start the season and they're going to continue to score goals, it just feels like an incredible route to points that I can't turn my head away from. And then
you're paying for it, though. That's the problem.
You are paying for it. But if it's solving your issue that you're talking about, having no Spurs coverage, just for lack of a better term, you could go, if you have the Son-Kane pairing, you can quickly go to Erling Haaland, and you still have one of the most lethal goal threats on Spurs.
You can do it right away, though, because if Haaland scores this weekend, he's 11-5. For anyone who's playing fantasy the first time, the prices start to rise. I don't know if they'll rise until Monday. I'm not sure that first weekend if they'll
Yeah.
actually rise that Saturday or not.
Right.
They probably won't. So you might have like a day or two, but by the time one day rolls around, you
Yeah.
will certainly start to see players
Yeah.
rise and fall in value as they get
Yeah.
bought and sold. So Haaland, if he scores this weekend, the most you can rise in a week is 0.3, and I think the same with falling. And so I think that Haaland will be like 11-8 by
Yeah.
the time game week 2 rolls
Yeah.
around.
I think where I'm pulling back from Spurs a bit is in their defense. Perisic is, he played 75 minutes against Roma. It started, so that's very encouraging
Right.
for people who are looking to start with him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a newly put together defense. I've never really trusted them to be great keepers of clean sheets throughout the course of the season. They sort of seem to come in random
Yeah.
intervals. So yeah, as I'm looking at how much cash I'm spending at White Hart Lane, it's really just in the attack. I mean,
Yeah.
you're trying to talk yourself into Lloris earlier today, I think.
Well, no, I wouldn't say I was trying to talk myself into it, but I was sort of like, is he?
Yeah.
And but no, he's not an answer to any question, Brandon.
If he was
Even though,
if he was 5.0,
yeah,
Lloris would be in every team.
the thing about him is that he actually did outscore Ederson last year by 3 points.
Nah, that's fake news, my friend.
And Allison too. Allison's only 5.5. I mean, he's injured right now. I guess he's not even flagged on the site, but I mean, he is injured, right? He didn't play in the charity shield.
That was my understanding that he was not quite set. I mean, you're not playing Adrian for fun.
No, that's true. And does that make you feel any worse about having Trent and Robertson in the back?
Well, no, as we discussed Trent's performance in the Community Shield, we don't have a huge amount of respect for his defensive prowess. It's really all about the attack, his assist, and free kick and goal threat. So I have no real qualms about investing in Trent for fear of losing a clean sheet.
No, I mean there's just so much attacking threat, right?
Yeah.
So it really does make up for the occasional mistake. And all right, so okay, so we have. I mean, I guess the answer is 0 to 3. That was like a really
Well, yeah,
helpful of us to.
the answer is we're anticipating Spurs to be top 3, if not
Yeah.
challenging for the title.
Right.
At least through the festive fixtures
Right.
or post World Cup. However, we're sort of like milestoning this weird season. They're going to score goals. They're going to get FPL points. So I feel like if you're going to be cautious on them in your first draft, get ready to bring them in because I think they are going to week after week be a talking point.
Let's see. So they start out with Southampton at home, Chelsea away. So you could probably wait until game week 3 to really jump in. I mean, you're right. They are going to rise and fall. There's really is an argument if you're putting your team together and you get to 99.5 and you like it, just keep it there. Because that 0.5 would be hugely helpful, and it's just because those price rises, and it just means you don't have to make some really tricky decisions kind of immediately.
There's a global recession that's coming. I mean, it's about to be an FPL dust bowl. So
Yeah.
the more cash you can put in your little shoebox and tuck it under your bed, that's probably a good thing.
It would have been funny if they made us start at like 87 million to like really reinforce that
Yeah,
point.
right.
All right, so I think you're right. So but I think Kane has been so good in the preseason. Son as well. Honestly, they've both been great. I think for me, I just don't like the balance. I do value. I guess I just value Man City as a team that's going to score against anybody a little more than I.
Counterpoint,
Yeah.
you know where the points are coming from with Spurs. It's a bit of a guessing game right now with City.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just like game week 2 at home to Bournemouth. I just feel like that's like a 7-0 win, and that's the one that's hard for me not to, be like really well covered.
This is very much a food for thought discussion, very much a leave your comments down below sort of a thing with Spurs. So I'm curious to hear what our listeners have to say.
Son is probably a little underrated,
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, obviously he's a beloved player, but I think we have to get used to his new price. We never really had that. I think what is he up to now? I think he's at. His price is 12 million, but he's at 25% selected. So, I mean, given that he was, I think, second in points last season, it's a little surprising that he is only selected by a quarter of managers, right? I mean, you look at someone like Gabriel Jesus, he's like 67%.
Well, yeah, it is the price, as you say, and I think that most FPL players are out there are smart enough to know 12 million, very hard to fit in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that ownership percentage.
7.6%, by the way, for Gabriel Jesus.
Wee.
I wonder if that's the highest. I mean, that might crack. And he had a hat trick today, so he might crack 70. Have we ever had anybody start the season at 70%?
I don't know. Maybe like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Haaland's at 54. Kane's at 24. So Harry Kane getting no love right now.
None.
Yeah.
All right. What's the next dilemma, Josh?
All right. Next dilemma is Comrade Chairman Stern. I don't even know what that means.
That's
Like
the former
yeah.
NBA commissioner.
Yeah, he was commissioner, So comrade and chairman are kind of like
You get promotions.
they're like terms like commissioner, right? So
right.
anyway, he says, whose preseason form, for better or worse, has most changed your prior perceptions of their FPL value? So who has either wowed you or I guess disappointed you so far in the preseason?
Well, I had many early drafts with Arsenal have been the talk of preseason. Many drafts with Odegaard. I think I'm kind of ready to leave the Odegaard debate behind for a while.
Feels like growth.
Because what I've found remarkable is, while Jesus is out there doing his thing, Saka and Martinelli have also just been bagging goals and assists, and I think that's really hard to turn away from. I'll leave Marcus Rashford to you, but I think it's really these mid-price Arsenal midfielders that I think actually give me hope that we've got lots of different options once the season kicks off to go to Arsenal.
Has Saka crept into your team at any point? Have you thought about him at all? He's been great. He had 2 goals today.
He has not. He has not. And I think because I've never had a draft where there was an 8 million spot that didn't have Luis Diaz.
Yeah.
And then, now where I'm at with my draft is I've moved away from having an 8 million midfielder spot. That's the problem with having Son, is I think that can cut out being able to have one, the lower upper tier midfielders of that 8 million range.
The ones with the higher ceiling.
So, that does give me a little pause bringing in somebody like Son, because talking about how many of these appealing mids there are, from Mason Mount to Saka to Luis Diaz on 3 great teams who will probably be scoring lots of points. And to have
Phil Foden, I mean, there's a lot, there's
right. And Mahrez is 8 million as well. So I think that's something I have to think a little bit more going into game week 1. Is it's probably pretty important to have an 8 million spot that you can have some flexibility with, because we're going to be shifting between all these guys, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. We talk about that with the 5.5 million guys too, like just having a couple players. That's actually the part of the problem with Bailey. I mean, maybe it's a good thing, but he's only 5 million. He's been great in preseason.
Yep.
Leon Bailey, good name.
Oh, excellent name. Yeah.
So we'll see. I think we both. Actually, I think we have the same 3 people right now so 4 to the same 5 midfielders we have right now, because I have that Bailey, Pereira. Who was the third player you named?
Andres Pereira, Martinelli, Gabriel Martinelli.
I got Martinelli too.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's hard to resist Martinelli because they've got a good start to the season. He's been great in the preseason. He had 2 assists today.
Yeah, we woke up. We woke up this morning in the hotel, and I'm like, well, another bag of goals for Jesus, and I'm like, oh, brace for Saka. Oh, 3 assists for Martinelli.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been awesome, and he's cheap. So I think the Martinelli is definitely one that I would. I've got him right now. I'm same as you. So
Sure.
I think. All right. Well, let's move on to the next question. Or actually, the player. It's kind of the same team. The player for me is Gabriel Jesus, who joins Arsenal after what would we say, it was 6 or 7 years, much longer at Man City.
6 seasons, I think it was.
Yeah, 6 seasons at Man City. Has never really been a fantasy asset ever.
Yeah.
But we all know he's good, right? He's terrific. He
has already proven this in the preseason, and he fits into that squad really well.
He's had some great moments for Brazil as well. And so there's he's clearly an excellent player, and it seems like this move to Arsenal has kind of he's just on fire right now. I'm not sure it'll last. I mean, we're not talking about Anthony Martial levels of worry here, but it's possible that dips. So I'm not married to him all season, but I think early on he's too cheap.
Yeah.
Playing too well.
I thought you were going to mention Marcus Rashford, because he is,
right?
I think, maybe less like the goals and assists that have been happening for preseason, because Manchester United are still dealing with the same issues they've been, and there is no continuity there right now.
Right.
And speaking of lack of continuity, that's actually favored Marcus Rashford, who had a terrible season for United last year. And now he looks like he's going to be in the starting lineup under Ten Hag. And at 6.5, a guy who might be oscillating between wing play, and number 9.
Yeah.
That he's definitely got my attention.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And I had a draft this morning with Rashford in it. We talked about it a little bit in our team previews. He looks trim at the moment. It looks happy, sinewy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next question is from Jimmy J,
All right.
and he says, "For me, the question is still big at the back."
Man, I mean, have big at the back like tattooed in Old English. I guess like big at the back, you should probably have that on your back
Exactly.
as opposed to the like
Yep.
typically on the chest there with the Old English. I don't know. We've talked about big at the back and many phases of the Always Cheating podcast, and we're just not a big at the back podcast.
What does it mean, right? Because I mean, I have 4 defenders right now, and I have
Yeah.
I look at my team. I've got Robertson, Trent, James, and Diaz. I'm just realizing, by the way, that every single one of my defenders is on the road. It has an away match in game week 1.
That's smart, Josh.
I
That's
don't
really
know.
smart.
Yeah, exactly.
You want
That's
these
a lot
guys to
of-
have miles on their legs.
I guess that's true. But I mean, so that's and I've got Mendy in as my keeper. So I mean, in some ways, that's a premium price for a keeper. I mean, anything more than 4.5 million, I think, is certainly traditionally been in the premium range. I tried to work in Ederson. I haven't been able to do it at the moment, but there's still time. And then Robbo's expensive, Trent's expensive, James is expensive, and Diaz is expensive. So that's I mean that I think I am big at the back at this point.
Yeah, I think the common conception of big at the back is you're talking about I've got both Trent and Robbo plus Diaz plus Cancelo. Is big at the back less the price makeup and more the team makeup?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we talked about Perisic as well, and the I think also the big at the back concept suggests I'm getting better value from a 7 million wingback, fullback who gets attacking returns than I am from a 7 million midfielder like Jack Grealish, who I really don't know what I'm going to get from him week after week.
It's not even value. It's like actual points.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I mean, I think that's where I was getting caught up in this, and I was thinking, well, it's like value, like whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, but like just like at the end of the season, these cheap defenders are just scoring more.
Right.
I mean, they're literally like picking up more points.
Right. So there's no point in us sort of debating the logic of price per points value sort of thing. The decision FPL managers really have to make is about team balance. And I think as we're suggesting right at the top of the show with going into game week 1, going in with a preparedness for what will start in game week 2. And big at the back right from game week 1, I think puts you in a very inflexible situation.
Right.
Because there have been many seasons where suddenly it's just we're going to go through a 4-week patch where it's all about the midfield, or it's going to be all about Kane and Haaland.
Right.
And if you start with an imbalanced team with most of your budget in the back, you're going to look to be wild carding in game week 3 or taking transfer hits, which we can debate that at a later date. But it really is that issue of flexibility.
I'm going to be wild carding early anyway. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I always do.
So I guess for us, neither of us are really considering the like true big at the back, but we are very open to spending 5 million and up on all starting defenders.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Yeah. And so but I do feel like it's worth noting, I think, that we have maybe changed our tune a little bit. I feel like we're
I
not.
haven't. I'm saying I'm the same as I've always been.
I think you have modified your tune. You're pretending it's the old tune.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, but I'm.
It's like I lost the rights to my tune, and now I had to go re-record my take on Big at the Back.
Yeah, it's like Jens Lekman redoing his old records.
Exactly,
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think that's.
I can't believe you went Jens Lekman reference over Taylor Swift, but that's fine. That's fine.
Well, that's my taste.
I got
you.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Derek says, "Is it madness to leave?" I like this one because he answers his own question.
Okay.
Is it madness to leave out Salah? And he says, "I'm going with Son though."
So Derek is mad, and I think that's fine. So I will keep coming back to this like truism that we're trying to breathe life into, in that game week 1, maybe you just kind of go with the flow a little bit. But I feel like that does not mean that Derek is wrong here to go without Salah. So you were saying why go with Kane in game week 1 if you're not going to captain him because you're going to be captaining Salah? Going without Salah gives you the opportunity to not captain him. I
Right.
think that makes you feel much more comfortable in that decision. So I'm very much in favor of the idea of going without Salah if you've got the courage to put the armband on Son. Though Son doesn't have the best fixture in game week 1, which is the concern. So can you start with Salah, captain him against Fulham, and then look to move to Son later on?
I don't love that.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the thing about Salah is that he's so incredibly consistent, right?
Mhm.
Like he's just you can capture him in any match, even against the toughest teams. It just makes things so much simpler, right?
Right.
And we saw today. It's like Roma. I mean, they're going to face teams like Roma. Roma. I know, and like
Yeah.
again, I feel like we're weighing the friendlies way too heavily right now, and
Sure.
I guess it's just like it's like a recency bias that you can't avoid a little bit. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I have never like he's kind of a frustrating player to captain sometimes. He's a little less consistent to me than you're going to get with Salah or
Yeah.
Aguero back in the day. These kind of like
Yeah.
classic, sort of classic captain picks.
You're talking about Son, right?
Yeah, Son.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and I think I've stuck my neck out. Yeah, the great courage that I have, thinking that Kane is going to outscore Son this
Right.
season. So I'm thinking, if I'm looking to captain Spurs,
Yeah.
Kane feels like my better bet.
Yeah.
Of course, I realize I'm already working on a draft where I've got both of these guys, and if I have Kane, Son, and Salah,
Yeah.
that's a captaincy dilemma week in, week out.
What about our beloved Polish man, Kulusevski? Is he
Swedish?
just like
He's Swedish.
he
Yeah.
is Swedish? I
Right.
always want to say Polish because that's a very Polish sounding
Yeah,
name.
right.
So
Nah,
he's Swedish.
I think Kulusevski is so good, obviously, and
yeah.
Conte is bringing out he's brought out the best in
Yeah.
that Spurs side by bringing him into the lineup.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's complicating matters. I want to spend money on the real dudes at Tottenham
Well,
right
it's
now.
like it's the classic third best dilemma, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna go for Van Dijk instead of
Mhm.
or sometimes you go even further, right? I'm gonna have Matip or
Matip,
something
right.
like that, right?
Mhm.
And then it kind of works for a while, and then just inevitably, like you never get that top end
Yeah.
version, where you just get like the incredible match where Trent has a free kick, right? And Trent sets up Salah for 2 goals, and then Liverpool don't concede, and it's just like I feel like you never quite get that when you pick like the third choice option. So I think that's sort of one with Kulusevski where I like him, and I think he's a great fit for that team. But he's not Son or Kane, he's just not at their level, and so
Right.
it's hard to go for.
So put a button on this Salah question. So I've tried to make a case for going without Salah for the opportunity to
Right.
put your captaincy stock in another player. Can you? I feel like you're firmly on Salah. Could you fathom a case for going without him?
Sure. I mean, Mark Southerns, our buddy, is
Uh-huh.
doing that right now, and like I think that's
Yeah, don't tell me that Mark's doing it. What about you? What's your case?
well. I don't see a reason not to get him. He's not that expensive. I mean, given what you get for him,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
like he's the most selfish, like in a good way, right?
Yeah,
like
I
he's
got
the most goal selfish player in the league. He absolutely loves to score. He scores basically 2 out of every 3 matches, and has since he joined the club.
Yep.
So he is the safest captain pick for one thing. He should be like 15 million, and you get him at basically like it's like the equivalent of getting, I don't even know, like Ederson at 4.5 or something like that, where you're just like, well, it just feels like it's really hard to resist going with a player that never stops scoring, will certainly set people up for assists, got one today, and also is just like a classic fallback for the captaincy.
I love this. So I asked you to make a case against Salah, and you have doubled down on retaining him in your FPL
I'm just
squad.
not hugely convinced that I mean, if he was, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you don't have him and you go for Son, it doesn't remake your team enough to make it
That's true.
worthwhile.
That's
to
very
me,
true. I agree with that. All right, next question. Next dilemma, Josh.
All right, next dilemma is Andy G, the golf pro, long time Andy Goodland, long time friend of the pod, Brandon. He says Robbo v Diaz. Says I think I'd prefer Diaz plus a 4.5 million defender than Robbo plus. Okay, we don't need to get into all the details here, but Robertson, great left back, best in the league. He and Curcello, I'd say Robertson still. I give him the
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was.
You're a Matt Target guy, right?
I'm always Target. Very much a Matt Target guy. I like them all. I like all the left backs. I like all the right backs. I'm not here to play
You like all the
favorites.
players.
I like all the players. I think they're really smart, good looking, intelligent. They're all nice boys. Uh, I mean, I feel like Robertson is probably going to finish the season on more points if I had to guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. How many more though? Right? Because
Yeah.
he costs $1 million more.
Sure. Yeah.
£1 million, Brandon.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
So yeah, okay. So then the more uninteresting way to answer this question is the whole, flexibility argument. I feel like having Luis Diaz in your team, you're going to be getting points probably at a similar rate of return to Robbo, one would guess.
Yeah.
And you're giving your FPL squad that added dimension of flexibility in the midfield, where I was making that case earlier about big at the back. So that's that's how I view this one.
I mean, I have both right now, so I guess that's the other way to do it.
You have both
It's the
Robbo
why,
and Luis
it's the
Diaz.
why not
Okay.
both gif. That's what I'm doing right now. Oh, with those two. I mean, I just think Diaz is like, he's got like a pretty good goal threat. I mean, he's like one of the only tall guys in that team, so they get a lot of corner kicks, and like if actually Haaland is there now too. Is Haaland going to take away some corner?
Oh, we're talking about Ruben Diaz or Luis Diaz here.
That's a good question.
Yeah, there are a lot of Diaz's coming into the league now.
That's
okay,
true.
I was wondering if Andy was talking about Robbo versus Luis Diaz. If you're talking about Robbo versus Ruben Diaz, then
I was thinking Ruben Diaz.
okay. Well, I think these are both interesting ways to approach this.
Yeah, you can't do the why not both with Luis Diaz because unless you go without Trent, and that feels very dangerous.
Okay.
It's hard, again, recency bias. I had a version early on that didn't have Trent.
Okay.
And now I'm just like, he's just too good. It's like this is why we all end up with very similar teams, because if you can get if they're reasonably affordable and they're so good, then let's kind of give it a couple weeks. Things will shift, things will change. Like why am I going to handicap myself? Like why would I want to go into game week 1 with one hand tied behind my back? If I truly believed, just truly believed that Trent was not a great pick, then I wouldn't have him, right? Like I'm not doing it out of like fear of his ownership or whatever. But it's just like if I'm only doing it because I just want to be different than everybody else, that's just like, just don't go to these like sites that tell you how similar your team is to everybody else. And just don't check their ownership, and then you can just enjoy what you have, and just think of it like golf. That's what I always say. Like just think of it like a golf team, and you're doing your own game, and then later on you can compare scores.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Andy, I hope we answered your question on many levels for many different Diaz's.
Exactly, we answered the wrong question, but a more interesting question.
I caught you when you suggested that Diaz was a tall guy, and I was like, I don't think we're talking
That's
about
what
the
finally
same
happened.
Diaz.
It would have been amazing if we had answered the entire question without ever figuring out like that we were.
I'm sure we've done that in the past.
That's like real pot. Like we're just like, I'll just go I'll vibe with.
Sounds great.
I
totally agree.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, who's next? Mikey Uong here. Producer Mike says, is Saka worth the extra $2 million over Gabriel Martinelli? So we've already kind of sung the praises of both of these players, and they both have their merits. So for me, a question would be, is Saka still on pens? Because I felt like he was a pretty confident pen taker for Arsenal.
Took one today.
Yeah, so there he is. He's kind of growing into a talismanic presence for the Gunners. He's like sort of quickly becoming a veteran of that starting lineup now. So that is the case for spending the extra $2 million, as you get that added FPL bonus of having penalties. But where I have landed on Martinelli is probably because $6 million is easy. It's doable to fit him in as a fourth midfielder at that price, and then you get that $8 million floating midfielder, like we've been talking about. Saka becomes Mount, becomes Foden, becomes Luis Diaz, et cetera, et cetera, et
This
cetera.
is like that. You ever see that Macbeth movie? Where they show all the old Macbeth film, like the '70s, where you see all the faces of like the former kings.
I'm sure I have. It sounds like something you watch in, like
middle school.
Yeah, exactly. In English class, world literature class. So I guess Martinelli feels like a player you bring in, you kind of stick with, and you're patient with him because it's
stick him in the old team, and
and Saka at the $8 million, you get, as I said, you get the added
Yeah.
bonuses there, but you kind of have to be prepared to shift with the changing
Yeah.
winds with a player like him, perhaps.
What about Trossard? How about poor old
No, I don't want to talk.
Leandro?
I do not want to talk about Trossard.
Hat trick and an assist today.
Yeah,
It was great.
you're looking at some far flung like Excel grid on the internet today, and you're like, oh, look who's here,
Yeah.
Trossard, and I was like, no, thank you, no, thank you.
I don't know. I mean, no, I'm not. What I actually realistically have, I think I got tempted because I was looking at those like stat tables, and he's way up at the top. As is Pedro Neto, and
Yeah,
am I just going to end up having like exactly the team that I like told myself I didn't want to have early on? Because
maybe, maybe that's fine. I
I
mean,
need to like think about Neto more. I need to like sit in a chair, like a wingback chair, by myself
Okay, all
with
right.
like a cocktail.
Oh, you're going to make a great pun there, even though Neto's more of a winger than a wing back. But
I just need to sit quietly and think about Pedro Neto.
The thing
whether I like him enough.
the thing that's changed with Neto and the Wolves conversation since we did the team preview was the Jimenez injury. And do we, I don't know if that diminishes the value of Neto. Some would suggest that it actually increases the value of Podence, who's more likely to play through the middle.
Yep.
So yeah, I think, this is a game week 2 question for me. Let's see how Wolves look in game week 1, how they set up, how Podence versus Neto looks, and then but so then I'm kind of like, it doesn't really matter what midfielder you start with at that price point, right?
I think you're right. I mean, people like preach patience, and I think there is an argument for patience when it comes to like Mo Salah's, son. Like he's like players who like you kind of just know.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the season when it all washes out, they're going to be the top players, right?
Yeah.
It even happened with like Ronaldo last season. Like, oh, Ronaldo's very, very disappointing season. It just hasn't worked out since he come back to Man United. And then like, 18 goals by the end of the season in his Ronaldo's down year. He was still terrific. And by the way, he's in the squad for tomorrow's match for Man United. So I guess he's
Wonderful.
Officially back.
He's
I don't
back.
know. Yeah. I kind of didn't want to deal with that fantasy.
I'm still not dealing with it. I'm still refusing to deal with it, but it does complicate the whole Rashford thing for sure. So, but talking about Neto, I think that's the wrinkle with Martinelli is you just bring Neto in that Martinelli spot, you save 0.5 million, and then maybe it makes. I do think Saka is going to be scoring more points than Martinelli in the long run. So if money is no object, Mikey, that would be my pick.
But it always is.
It always is. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think that you can get close enough with Martinelli. He's been so good in the preseason that I think both of us have him in our squad right now. So and part of it too with Saka is I'm not sure I want that to be my third Arsenal player.
Okay.
I feel like I love the value of Martinelli. I think Jesus is kind of the same boat. Now he's a great value. He's just like playing so well at the moment. It's really hard to avoid him.
Yeah.
Like I feel like again, this is like one of those like don't do the one hand behind your back thing. Like if there's a cheap player who's playing very well, just bring him in, and then later on, you can shift or maybe it won't work out or whatever. But I was going to say about the like patience idea. I think being patient with your like more than 10 million players, or I guess you could even say like your defenders over 6 million or whatever. I think be patient with them is fine. But I think when it comes to your cheapies, like kind of like the players that you have a little bit different in your squad, I think being wildly impatient is perfectly fine. I think like just keep moving. I think that's like totally appropriate.
Yeah. All right. 2 more dilemmas to go here. What's next?
All right. Aaron says Chelsea. I'm going to change this to Chelsea in general.
Okay.
Chelsea, are you in or out?
I want to be in. I mean, Reece James feels great. Mason Mount feels great. But somehow, as I tinker with my squad, they are not even coming close to getting into my draft.
Yeah. I was there until today, and now I have 3. Yeah. I don't know what happened. It's sort of, I just like really am one of those like fixtures fix everything managers. And to me, Everton, like in danger, right? Need to sign like a bunch of new players still. Dwight McNeil can't fix everything, sadly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that about your boy, Dwight McNeil.
He really is my boy. So Everton, Spurs, but they play at home. So, there's like a reasonable chance that could be like a 1-0 win for
Spurs are going to kill them, I think. Hey, okay, go on with the
they've
fixtures.
only lost one center back. It's not like as Rudiger, as good as he is, like fundamentally, that's still the same team that they were last season.
Well, yes, but also fundamentally, I think the character of that Chelsea team has changed, not just over the summer, but over the last half of last season. It's almost like the signing of Lukaku, similarly to Ronaldo going back to Manchester United. It just changed the whole attitude at the club, and Chelsea after like coming off the back of just like a miraculous season when Tuchel came in, reshaped Chelsea, made them into a defensive juggernaut. They win the Champions League.
Yep.
And then last season was just a whimper by comparison.
The
Tuchel seems to be like
I'd say the second half of last season. The
Yeah.
first half of the season, they were
diminished by
pretty
injury.
terrific. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were good in the first half and then diminished by injury. I think, I would agree with you there. But I think Chelsea, if I'm struggling for Arsenal versus Chelsea, I'm
Yeah.
going Arsenal because I feel like I understand the trajectory of Arsenal right now a little better than Chelsea, and maybe I feel more confident in West London after game week 1 has happened, after I see them batter Everton.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it's the same. It's kind of the same. I mean, if anything, Chelsea is the more settled team than Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal are the ones that are the question mark. It's actually one of the reasons I'm a little nervous about having 3 Arsenal players is because it is such a question whether they're like whether it's all going to click right off the bat. I mean, I guess I don't know how much is different. At the moment, they're going to be starting with 2, I suppose, kind of what ultimately is 2 new defenders, right? You're going to have, it looks like Zinchenko's going to start game week 1 because Tierney's got this injury. He's like just sort of slowly coming back. And then what they've been doing is playing Ben White at right back. So you have this kind of 3 center back. I mean, is Ben White got a bomb forward? I don't know. I guess they don't need him to, right? They got enough, wingers in that squad.
Yeah, I don't expect he will, and I think the way Arteta is going to play, similar to under his tutelage with Pep, is going to look to control the ball. I don't know that the defense for Arsenal is going to be that big of a factor for fantasy right now. So them being newly composed and maybe unsettled at the back is not a huge concern.
Yeah. I mean, I had a version of this is like prime. This week is prime. I had this guy in my team week, but there, I had Zinchenko in my squad for a while, and because I do think he's going to start game week 1, probably start game week 2, and then there's this talk that he's going to move further forward. But is he like an instant starter further forward? It's like, I guess it's just like I don't like that question mark about him. Like ultimately, we don't think he's going to be a left back all season long. So what happens next? Does he go right in? Like, who's he replacing? Like,
I think he becomes I think we said this when we were previewing Arsenal. I think he becomes a James Milner in that instance, where he comes in late in matches to fill in a midfield place, and it just doesn't feel like he's going to turn into great fantasy value there.
I feel like I should clip that out and just I think that one can come back to haunt you a little bit. I think because I think he's going to be starting most of the time, but it's just not knowing where he's going to play. I think that's what I mean. I think he's going to be. I mean, if he's out of position at $5 million and he's playing like in any kind of attacking spot, then he's going to be amazing value.
Right. So AA Ron asked about Chelsea defense. Are we in or out? We just spent 5 minutes talking about Zinchenko. We are firmly out on Chelsea right now, I think.
I mean, I have Mason Mount in my midfield right now.
I love that.
So,
I love that. I love that for you. I wish I was there too. I love, we sort of talked briefly about Chilwell versus Reece James. Reece James is just the dude. So go with James. I think if you've got faith, but I'm not there yet with Chelsea. All right, one more dilemma, also about a team that I'm not quite there with.
Yep.
And it comes from El Fat Boy. Our Man United attack a steer clear after the Ronaldo situation is cleared up. Marcus Rashford's price is tempting, but CR7 reappearing makes me nervous that they will revert last season. I kind of revealed my opinion here where, as high as you might be with Marcus Rashford being 6.5, I feel like this happens so often at the start of the new Premier League season where you're like, oh, there is a window of opportunity on a top 6 club for an accidentally low-priced player to start and do well.
Yeah.
And it's very random when it works out. And the Ronaldo thing, not only does it disrupt that narrative with Rashford being a great value pick, it just disrupts everything with Manchester United full stop.
That's how I feel too. Yeah. If he hadn't announced that he's coming back, maybe I would I mean, we'll see. Still wouldn't be shocked if he moved. I think there's like
Yeah,
better than 50% chance of that
Ten
still
Hag could
happening.
just Gareth Bale him and put him on the bench. I mean, I don't know how good a golfer Ronaldo is, but
Yeah.
I could.
He's just too popular. It puts Ten Hag in a very difficult spot if he does that, right? Because Ronaldo is more popular than you and me as like non-Man United supporters.
I'm popular.
You know, you are very popular. Yeah, maybe not Ronaldo level, but I keep comparing you to
If
these.
Jordan,
Yeah,
Jordan Henderson has more followers than
Yeah,
me, I
yeah.
dare not ask about CR7.
He might have a couple more. Yeah, even more than Henderson. I
Okay.
think. So
I see them
yeah.
as sort of like cut from a
Yeah.
similar mold,
But
Hendo and
people love that guy. I mean, you can be like the most, like total hard ass new manager,
yeah.
all you want, fitness. Like, I mean, first of all, Ronaldo's fit, so like that's not going to be. The
He's not
issue.
dunking
Yeah.
his tots in ketchup. I'll tell you that.
He's
much.
not dunking his tots in
No.
ketchup. That's very true.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's gonna be able to play. He's gonna be ready. I'm certain by next week. I mean, he's even though he's 37, it's like I mean the guy just keeps himself in incredible shape. So so he'll be ready to play. Yeah. What is the knock on effect from that, right? Like it certainly hurts Martial. Kind of like immediately just like ruins him.
Yeah.
Fantasy wise, and then I worry that it hurts Rashford too, and it hurts Bruno. Sancho, it hurts everyone, and this does not mean that Ronaldo's a bad player, but it's just he kind of sucks up all the oxygen, from that
Right.
squad. The second half of last season was just a colossal bummer, and I'm sort of, I don't know, I don't know why they didn't move harder just to move him on, or just let him out of his contract. It just feels like, don't you want to reset right now? Don't you want like a fresh start with this?
I mean, it's
talented
money.
new
It's
manager?
money. All the ownership right now in professional level sports all around the world is so tied up in businessmen and whatnot.
Yeah.
These are not like local community magnates who are doing this for the fun of it all and the betterment of the community. You've got a huge contract with Ronaldo that's worth a lot of money.
Right.
You don't just set that on fire.
No, but I mean like full on just release Ronaldo from his contract is what I'm saying. Like, just
Right.
like let him go wherever he wants, and
Instead of getting paid.
how much are they going to get for him? He's 37. Nobody wants him. Like
Well, I don't know.
I mean, he's a great player, but he kind of every team that he goes on, it's like a black hole. It's just like energy is warped around him.
right, right,
So I feel like you have to like have a pretty strong club culture to be able to bring him in and feel like you can like kind of control that part of it.
In a sense, it's a bummer because we don't get to tinker too much with Marcus Rashford. I mean, I applaud people who have the guts to try it, but in another sense, it's just one less team we have to worry about for game week 1.
Yep.
We can put Manchester United in the I'll think about it camp leading into game week 2.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am too. And maybe the defenders. That's a whole other question that we'll have to just table as well,
Pass.
right?
Yeah.
That's a pass for now. Let's see. I mean, there's some fresh blood in there. I want to see how that blood
Thickens?
circulates.
Okay, yeah, I like that one
something
better.
that.
Circulates.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, do we want to take a quick look at the game week 1 fixtures just to sort of like round out this preparation we're doing?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it's like I haven't even like really looked that closely. It's like we've been in full on like I need to learn about 100 new players.
Yep.
I need to figure out how the teams are doing the preseason, et cetera, et cetera. I want to figure out who I'm going to put on my team.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh right, there's actual games coming, like very soon.
Yeah.
As of this Friday. So Friday we kick things off with Palace Arsenal. Then Liverpool Fulham on Saturday morning. That'll be fun. I just realized by the way that my because we're in Vegas, we went 3 hours back. So
I'm not getting up at 4:30
a.m.
a.m.
4:30. That's a tough.
Not even
kickoff.
to watch my beloved Fulham.
I still cannot believe that Jamie won the fantasy game with all of these games starting at like 7 a.m.
Yeah.
U.S. time.
Well, it was the baby, right, that had him up at all hours. So
Yeah,
there,
that's
if you're
true.
on the West Coast, just pop out some babies.
Have some babies. That's
Yeah.
right. Jeremiah, our friend.
Yeah.
Got like 6 kids. That's the way to do it.
So good at FPL. It's a multiplying effect.
Exactly. So you have kind of some fun like mid-table, or not even mid-table is not even the right word, but just like a nice mix of, I don't know, like anything could happen games this weekend. Bournemouth Villa, that's an interesting match to me. Like what is going to happen there? Leeds Wolves, I don't know. Like everyone's injured in the defense for Wolves or for Leeds. Like I don't know what is going to happen there. Yep. Newcastle Forest, like I'm interested in all these games, and I certainly want to like flick around. And the first Saturday is usually like I used to like to go to the bar for it, and now that's too much for me. Like it's too much distraction. I need to sit down. I have my TV. couple iPads, and my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided whether I'm going to do 3 screens or 4. 2 is ideal, but 3 is the real addict move. And then I think 4 is too many. I think if when you have 4 screens, you just it's like it starts to like
I'm gonna clip this.
yeah, well, because it starts to you stop enjoying yourself. I think
Okay.
at that point. At that point, you're literally just covering it's like you're
Yeah.
like it's like you're doing like radio or something. You're just like covering you're just covering what's happening in your brain more than you're
Yeah.
actually like enjoying the game.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that I agree with you. There's some interesting matches that could actually be low stakes for game week 1 fantasy wise, but they're great opportunities to learn about these teams where we're kind of trying to assess various assets, and our attention, I think, is going to be primarily in that midday clump on Saturday on Spurs hosting Southampton because Kane and Son will be in so many teams going in there. But yeah, as best you can, seek out extended highlights or second, third screen those matches. And then we finish with the Frank Lampard, I don't know, public execution, where his Everton host his long captained Chelsea, and people are predicting that it's going to be very bad. I don't know. I think Lampard is going to be pragmatic, and not that he's got a great squad at Everton at the moment, but he's probably going to set up a little defensively. And it's not like Tuchel's Chelsea found it easy to score goals.
Right.
So I Chelsea, I think, win handily, but not by a wide margin. Maybe 1 or 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately my feeling is that Chelsea are going to win this one pretty handily, and I guess that's why I've started to invest in them a little more. That Spurs match in Game Week 2, though, is a tricky one, isn't it? That's what makes things a little for both teams. Really, I think it makes things complicated. If the Spurs were hosting Chelsea, I wouldn't really be that worried at all. But going away, I mean, you just said you think they're going to like crush them, but I don't know. I mean, it's like it's not that common for like Spurs to go into Stamford Bridge and just like destroy them.
This is like a parlor game, right? So Chelsea go to Everton, where Lampard used to play for Chelsea and now manage Everton, and then Tuchel's Chelsea goes to Spurs in game week 2, where Antonio Conte is managing Spurs, where he used to manage Chelsea.
Yeah.
What's next?
You really wanted Arteta.
It's like a national treasure level.
You really wanted Man City Arsenal, right, to kind of complete it with Arteta moving on to Arsenal. But yeah, I think that one's going to be really. I don't really know. I mean, I guess that makes me feel a little wary of having 2 Chelsea defenders, honestly, because I think that you could see Everton scoring a goal in that game just because they're home. It's game week 1. And then the Spurs match, it's hard to imagine the Spurs being like just totally shut out there. So I'm just like changing every opinion I had as we go through this. That's why I don't like to do a big team reveal this early, because I'm changing my opinion like every 30 minutes. I've done it like 4 times since this podcast started.
I can tell you the match I won't be watching, and it'll be Newcastle hosting Forest, because my current draft, I'll be playing both Trippier and Nico Williams, and that is like that's pull your hair out
You're
stuff.
You're just gonna start Williams?
Yeah. I will, because I'll be setting up as a 4-4-2, and
wow. So this is the dilemma then with having Son and Salah. I mean, you don't really want to be starting Nico Williams, right? Like he's more of like a
I don't know, why not?
Quality backup.
Why not?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, just like promoted team. I feel like I'm not totally. I don't know.
All right. I really hope that nobody from the Nico Williams family is listening to this. This is a true horror show, but. Yeah, seeing 2 defenders face each other in your fantasy squads, and in one match is tricky. Okay, so Sunday, it's more interesting matchups. I feel like this is like a very juicy slate.
I know. Honestly, I feel like if this was like Game Week 20, we'd be like whatever. But I think it's because it's the first weekend. It's like I'm kind of excited about every single match. I totally agree.
Yeah. So we got Leicester hosting Brentford, Manchester United hosting Brighton, and West Ham host Manchester City. I'm not finding the string theory here. I was with Lampard to Conte to Tuchel, etc. But yeah, I like that the game week 1 is capped off by West Ham v Man City, where we get like a second look at how are Man City going to line up. Is Haaland actually, going to take this long to bet in, et cetera, et cetera?
My prediction is that, because we'll record our podcast that evening, is that we end up spending like 20 minutes on that match, right at the start, because it'll be the final game on Sunday, whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
If Haaland does really well, that's a story. If he does poorly, if Jack Grealish, scores a brace or something like that. Like whatever happens in that match, it's going to be driving the
Yeah,
conversation.
and, and we will be probably podcasting right around the time the price changes happen that
Right.
night. So we will have either gotten rid of Holland or brought him in.
Stressful.
One of the two.
Yeah, that's a very stressful time. So you think so if Haaland does well in game week 1, you think you would just move right to him from Kane?
I think so, because then he becomes a very captainable player
Yeah.
against Bournemouth. Because I mean, we're picking Bournemouth to finish last this season, and in 20th position, they'll just get battered by most teams, and most notably City. So City struggling against Liverpool in the Community Shield. I mean, I'm pretty confident they'll still beat every other team 5-6-0.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think it's and that's also just like game week. I mean, like you said, what did they play 2 preseason matches before this one? So
Yeah,
they're
they're
very
still
late,
shaking the rust off.
very late schedule.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
All right. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
For our game week. It's great to be talking about actual matches.
I know,
again. It's
yeah.
a
I
nice
can't wait to
change.
actually then
Yeah.
react to matches that have been played.
It's even better.
Our
Yeah.
job, it gets a lot easier when we can just react to stuff as opposed to trying to predict the future.
That is true. That is very true. So we'll be back with our normal pod next week. Sadly, not in Vegas any longer. We'll be back with our normal recording.
We'll be in the Vegas of
homes.
the East Coast,
Yeah, exactly.
New York City.
Yeah, and so we'll record next Sunday with a normal pod. We will, however, do a Patreon exclusive pod later this week, and we'll have something, I hope, like 99% close to our team reveals. I also want to do a Zoom call with our Patreon supporters before game week.
Let's do it,
one
Josh.
kicks off too. So
Yeah, why not?
So let's get that in motion as well. If you want to support the pod, if you want to take part in any of that stuff, go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. We talked at the beginning about that. I won't go through it all again. But Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
I love our producers. Thanks, Mike DePietro, Trevor Iggerson, our buddy Chris Howell, to Big Gaffer, Bobbas Kuhn, James Holland, Dave Wegner, Lodahl, Nick Wright, Lazaros Yanos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Rich Evans, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Mikey Uwang, Shiv Marjoria, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons at FPL Merch, Carrie Swanson, Jefferson Turner, managed by Lasso, Francis Mann, Sam Shower, Jeremy Spiker, Caleb Robbie, Lee Hickman, Vulgar, Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keatley, The Saint, Bob Fox. I get tripped up on that one, Joshua. Craig Jackson, James Conroy, and our newest producers, Shalin F. Kadakia, Terrence O'Donnell.
Yep.
I'll get that name squared away, Shalin, very soon.
Brendan, I said I would
Yeah.
do this earlier on in the pod. I completely
You blew it.
I blew it. Exactly. So at FPL Merch, our old buddy, very good friend, longtime supporter of the podcast, has a newsletter, fpltips.com. It's terrific. I love the rise of the newsletter in fantasy. It's fantastic. So, I think it's terrific. I think you should go subscribe. It's free to subscribe. Very helpful, very useful. So fpltips.com is where you can go to get your weekly fix of fantasy content delivered into your inbox.
I'm glad Ross is doing that at FPL Tips, because that's a space we've long talked about getting into and failed miserably every time we've tried. So I'm glad smart managers are doing that.
It's a nice, clean-looking website, too. I'm on it right now. It looks very nice.
All right, as we get out of here, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Never miss an episode of Always Cheating. Follow us on Twitter at HailCheaters. For all this information and more, go to our website, alwayscheating.com. A big thanks again to all the gang at Blue Wire Studios here at the Wynn Las Vegas. We have had a smashing time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Too much fun at times, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like if you're saying too much, that reads as just enough.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
And we actually won some money. That's like I still can't believe that. Like this is mentally, I was like, there's no way. We might have some fun, but we're definitely.
It was
gonna
all
come out
about
of
the
it.
poker chips we gained along the way.
Exactly.
All right, Josh. It's been real. Poku forever. Hail cheaters.
Hail cheaters. Bye.